So let me tell you guys my story, how I became a Seventh-day Adventist, and why I chose to become a Seventh-day Adventist until this day. Our family background, both my parents were converted, but the first one who converted to Seventh-day Adventist were my dad's family. And then when they got married with mom, I believe she was still a Catholic. And me, when I was born, I was baptized in a Catholic too, because the child baptism, Catholic do that, right? In my birth certificate, I'm a Roman Catholic. And then I was also dedicated to Seventh-day Adventist Church, because Seventh-day Adventists, we don't do child baptism, but we do dedication for the children, just to be just like a prayer, like a formal kind of program, where the infants or the babies were prayed by the pastors, elders, something like that, like more on prayer thing. Anyways, I grew up like in a constricting way, where I wanted to join a lot of activities, especially in school, but unfortunately most of the activities are held on Saturdays, so I cannot join because we have to go to church, and as Seventh-day Adventists, we have to go to church every Saturday. We are trained to do that because Saturday is the Sabbath day, which I personally believe until now. So during elementary and high school, I went to a public school. Then during college, I went to the Central Philippine Adventist College, an Adventist school. There I took my nursing degree and graduated. My parents tried to introduce me into Seventh-day Adventism slowly in terms of habits, in terms of practice, although they were also struggling with themselves because they were also converted too, right? But they tried their best for me to be trained to be a Seventh-day Adventist. I was able to try different types of food, like, because my mom's side, they were not Adventists, right? They were Roman Catholics. So when there's an occasion or something like that, they have to prepare different types of food, like pork, shrimp, seafoods, so on and so forth. So I was able to try all of them, and like the squids, I was able to try all of them, the crabs too, and something like that, because my parents before were converted, right? So their practices or their habits were still there, so they still cook unclean foods based on the Bible, and I was able to try all of them. And then my parents decided to grow in faith, and they tried to be more mature in terms of Seventh-day Adventism belief or what the Bible said. Because just to make things clear, Seventh-day Adventists don't have their own doctrines, right? We got all our doctrines in the Bible. So it's like a Bible and Bible alone. So if your belief is not in the Bible, then we don't believe that one. Especially, like, for example, that's why we keep the Saturdays, because it's the Lord's Sabbath day. And even if you're gonna read the Bible cover to cover, you cannot see Sunday keeping in there, even just one word. That's one of the reasons why I became a Seventh-day Adventist too, even when I grew up. So let's go back to my past story. So during that time when I grew up, I was trying to be a Seventh-day Adventist, right? I'm not into into Seventh-day Adventism really, because I was just trained to do it. I was just, hey, do this, do that. Like, it became a habit, right? But I really don't understand I do understand some, but not like, right, same as my understanding right now that I do have that conviction, or I'm really serious about what I'm doing. I'm just following what my parents were saying because I believe that's good, right? And then everything changes when I went to get my review for my nursing board exam. I went to a Catholic review center. I took my nursing exam twice. First take, I failed. It's because, I don't know, I didn't focus that much. I was too distracted because I thought that I can just like spend a little effort and then get what I want, right? That kind of thought. And then I failed. During that time too, I was also wondering, Lord, why did you not give me any experience? Although I'm a Christian, but it feels like every time I hear people sharing their testimonies in church, or I heard people telling their experiences during outdoor programs, during youth programs, something like that, their experiences were strong. And I just realized, I was like, I didn't have any experience that I can share with the other people, like can make other people like really touched, right? I don't have any experience. I grew up with my parents, something like that. I was fed. So I prayed to God during that time. So it's a lesson too that you have to be careful what you prayed for. I was like, oh Lord, can you give me an experience or something? Because it feels like I don't have any experience at all. So after that prayer, I failed my first exam, right? And then after that one, I took my second attempt in a nursing school in our place, but it's a Catholic school. It's one of the prestigious school in the Philippines. It's a St. Paul's University. And then during that day, my stay there, I was able to experience things that I haven't experienced before. Like for example, questions that been asked that I haven't been asked before. And then it's like, I believe it's like three Adventists that went there. One of them was my classmate in CPAC, in Central Philippine Adventist College. What happened was people were wondering, like my schoolmates, people there are good. People there are nice to us.
Dig there.
Yes, dig di alaga. And then I saw there in their school that there's a tablet of stone, right? Where the 10 Commandments are written. They have their own tablet of stone. And then the second commandment where it says, thou shalt not worship any graven images. It's not there anymore. And it was covered, or like not covered, like removed. And then the 10th commandment, that's kind of like long, right? Compared to the other commandments, like thou shalt not covet and stuff. They were divided in order for the 10 commandments to be 10, because they already removed the second commandment. So when they removed the second commandment, it's like 9 commandments left, right? That's what I noticed in there. I was like, oh, so the pastors that were saying that the 10 commandments of the Catholic were changed, I seen it in my own eyes. Then I was like, oh, okay, so this is what they were saying before when they're doing their sermons and stuff. And then during the time, I'm still excited of what's gonna happen, right? During our stay there were a lot of questions that were raised because during our meal time. So we already talked about it with the coordinator of the school that we don't eat pork, we don't eat crabs, we don't eat whatever, like the unclean foods that were mentioned in the Bible. And then during mealtime, my classmates or my review mates, the students there, they were all wondering why our food or our viand were changed every time, but their food is always pork. Noah, stay here please, stay here. And their food were always pork and stuff like that. And we were asked by them, and then they were like, why you guys have different foods every time? Then I was like, because we don't eat pork, we don't eat this and stuff. We kind of explained why we don't eat it, but it's not that convincing. So they were like, and it raised more questions too, because during review time, every Saturdays, it's a special review day. It's because the one that's conducting the review is a doctor in Philippines, and it's a very important review because he will, in terms of knowledge, he will drop gems, right? But during that time, every Saturdays, me and my Adventist friends, we go to church every Saturday instead of attending those review. So it raised a lot of questions from my classmates or from our review mates. Why are we doing it? Something like that. It seems like we have a special treatment or something. They felt like that. And then a lot of questions, and it's kind of overwhelming for us because during that time I really thought that I'm really an Adventist, right? When we were asked about the questions that they were asking, we can't provide any answers. And we were like, wow. Even one of my friends, my Adventist friend, cried. It's because she can't answer their questions. And then we also met a lot of, few of the Protestants there, like born again Christians. And we worship together too. Every time there's like a mass for the students, because Catholic, they have practices too, right? We don't attend those mass, and we just go somewhere and then just like do our worship thing. Just pray, sing, and then discuss or like provide a short sermon or something like that. And then during the time too, one of the born again Christian classmate he has a lot of questions, and he was really interested in what is Seventh-Day Adventist. And it reached to the point where he was like, once I'm gonna ask my pastor, he said, I'm gonna ask my pastor, like, why are we going to church every Sunday? If he can't provide me a convincing answer, I will convert to Seventh-Day Adventist. That's what he said. Because people that are really into Christ, they are really focused on the doctrines, right? They're really focused on the studies, stuff like that. They just don't become. There are people that are different, because some Christians, they just go to church or become a Christian is because probably like they just want to be a Christian, right? But they don't want to follow other stuff that Christianity believes in. So he was like, I will become a Seventh-Day Adventist. And I was like, okay. During that time, our church pastor was very helpful to me because I have a lot of questions, and I always text him, call him, and he was always there to help me out. So during that time, I've learned a lot about Seventh-Day Adventist, although I am a Seventh-Day Adventist. So I was just like, if you're gonna name it, I was just like a Seventh-Day Adventist by name. Every night we do have to take we have to answer hundreds of questionnaires, right? Hundreds of questions to prepare us for nursing board exam. And then every night my classmates were so focused on answering, but me, what I did was just keep reading the Bible. And then, although I answered too, of course, I do have answered, but I always spend time to read the Bible. And there was one time that one of the coordinators were doing the rounds. They were checking because we held a review. We stayed there inside the school for like a month or two. So they were also monitoring us about our study habits. And then during that time, one of the coordinator caught me like reading the Bible instead of like answering the questionnaires. And he was like, Mr. Gonzaga, yeah, I understand that you're religious, but the exam that you will be taking is a nursing exam. It's not a religion exam. Then I was like, okay, sir, but it's okay. God will help me answer the exam anyways. That's what I said to him. And then he reported me to the head of the coordinators. And then every time, because this school is kind of strict in terms of their passing rates. So every time when they see that students are failing with their mock-up exams, they will talk to them one by one. They'll provide their assessment or evaluation if you are ready to take the boards. And then during that time, one of the head of the coordinator said to me, Mr. Gonzaga, I heard a report that during nighttime you were always reading your Bible instead of like answering the questionnaires. And I was like, oh yes, ma'am, I heard that. I already talked to that coordinator, and she said like, you understand, right, that the exam that you are taking is a nursing exam, not a religion exam. And I was like, yes, ma'am, but don't worry, I'll pass the exam. That's what I said. So to make the long story short, I passed the exam, and the one who called me and informed me that I passed the exam is the same coordinator, the head of the coordinators that I talked to. And she was like, hello. And during that time when she called, I was in a camp meeting, for a youth camp meeting in a different city. And she was like, Mr. Gonzaga, you passed the exam. Then I was like, are you sure? And she was like, yes, your name is Clinton, right? I was like, yes. And your last name is Gonzaga. And I was like, yes. And she said, yes, this is you passed the exam. I was happy and kind of like excited, but not that much, because I'm already expecting that God will help me pass the exam. And I can't believe it, right? All I did was have faith, and then I passed. So that's my experience. And then I practiced nursing, so on and so forth. I gained a lot of experience, negative experiences actually, because that's where you grew up, right? Getting experiences, not all positive experience, but some are negative experiences. During that time, I considered myself as a Seventh-Day Adventist, not by name anymore, but like an actual Seventh-Day Adventist. And during that time, I did a lot of study, and during that time too, that's my first time reading the Bible, that I didn't notice that it's already early in the morning. I started around 10 p.m. or 9 p.m., something like that, because of the fact that I really want to answer all those questions that they were throwing. So I just keep reading and reading, studying. I'm also part of it. I'm also like curious if I'm really on the right spot or like right place. Like as a Seventh-Day Adventist, what if I'm just like an Adventist because I grew up as a Seventh-Day Adventist. So the more I studied, the more I realized that the Seventh-Day Adventist doctrine are firm and solid compared to the other Christian denominations. A lot of Christian denominations, right? Out of all religion, Christianity has the one who have a lot of denominations. Born again, Baptist, so on and so forth. But if you're gonna notice, all of them are spending their Sabbath or their church day on Sundays. And that's what makes me think, right? Because Sunday keeping, originally it started from Catholic Church. I read a book and with like one of the bishops said, like, people or Protestants who worship the Lord during Sundays, who left the church, who left the Catholic Church, but still worship on Sundays, they were like a kid that went away from their mother, but they're still bringing a picture of their mother in their wallet. That's how the bishop described it. That's one of the things that Seventh-Day Adventist has, the solid foundation, like the Sabbath keeping. And if you're gonna check the 10 commandments, that's the only commandment too that starts with the word remember, because the Lord knows that someday people will forget about it. Every 10 commandments, they start with the word thou shalt not, right? Thou shalt not. But only one that starts with the word remember, and it's in the heart of the 10 commandments. So that's one of the reasons why I really choose to be a Seventh-Day Adventist. It's because of, firstly, that one, the Sabbath keeping. Of course, in terms of food, right? Imagine, I'm not eating a lot of unhealthy foods, but I still have, my cholesterol level is still high. So that's one of the things as well, like the Sabbath, the food, the dietary laws, so on and so forth. Because every denomination that they were talking about, all of them are just like, I felt like they were just all twisting the scriptures just to suit their needs or their lifestyle or something like that. But I don't blame them too. It's for them, because salvation is your own choice. No one can save you, but it's just you and Jesus for sure, because he's our Savior. That's my testimony why I became a Seventh-Day Adventist. So if you guys have questions or have your own testimonies as well, please feel free to use the comment section. That's what it's meant for. So I'll see you guys in my next video. You guys take care and God bless.